What up, everybody? Welcome to Ask Paul. Now, this is a podcast. If you're not familiar with my podcast platforms that I have on many other platforms that I stream on, the Ask Paul segment is something that was conceived by Brittany, who works for us here at Electrical Code Academy, and that was a way to be able to answer questions, a bunch of them at one time, and also give you some really enjoyable content that you can listen to as an electrician in the field, get those question answers. Also, you can be the star of the show because you can submit your questions over on paulabernathy.com. I know it's a first in the industry where you can actually submit your questions to be answered both in an email or on a show like our podcast and really get those answers. Plus, you get to help other people out as well because you know you're not the only one that's asked that question before, right? So this is a really exciting platform. We're excited about it as we push it. I told people that we were going to come up with something new in June of 2021. Well, this is it. It's unique because, again, being an electrical code expert, not knowing everything in the code, but knowing a vast amount of information on the National Electrical Code, it just seemed logical to give people access to that information and do it in a way that can help everybody at the same time. So when you send in a question to me, you're the only one benefiting. However, with this new platform, everybody's going to benefit from your question. We will keep your name anonymous, but we will use your question in order to generate a good content to be able to share on our podcasts. So that's what Ask Paul is all about. So if you want to submit a question to Ask Paul, just simply go to paulabernathy.com. That's paulabernathy.com. And guess what? You can submit your question and we will do it on a podcast. Now, not all questions will be answered. Some of them, they're just not worthy of being shared on the air, but you'll get an email response to all questions. And again, depending on time permitting, again, this is not something that's you're guaranteed the moment you submit something, you're going to answer right away. Sometimes they have to be researched. Again, that's what NEC code consultants do. But a lot of times your question will make it to the podcast. So we're excited about that. So make sure you do me a favor. Make sure that you bookmark this so that you're aware of all of the upcoming episodes. And we're going to be sharing all of these episodes on all of our platforms as this grows. So you might be listening to this the first time, and this is the very first inaugural episode of Ask Paul. But what we're doing here is we are literally going to answer those National Electrical Code type questions or electrical type questions, or maybe you have some questions about the industry, or maybe you have some questions about why the price of this is this or that. Whatever your question is on the electrical industry, we will do our best to try to answer that, whether I know the answer or I will seek out the answer from other people that I know that might have a greater knowledge in a certain area that your question is based on. But when it comes to the National Electrical Code, I'm going to answer those myself, and I'm going to give you my interpretation, my opinion, and my position on all of those issues. So we're excited about it. If there's something that I'm not overly familiar with, I'll let you know. And so it's going to be a great episode. We're going to have some special guests that'll come on in the podcast, and we're really excited about it. This is purely a podcast, so we're hopefully that you're going to listen to this on all of your popular podcasting platforms, Deezer, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts. And again, currently right now, we are just launching this. So you probably will only be able to listen to this from our website. So we will make sure that they're also loaded on paulabernathy.com. So you'll be able to listen straight from there if you want to listen to the podcast from there as well. So we're excited about it. Launching this in June of 2021. We think it's going to be a great podcast series. It's going to come to you once a week, and I hope you subscribe to it. Now, there's a lot of questions that do get asked about the National Electrical Code, and it doesn't matter whether it's 2017, 2020, 2011, 2014. If you have a question, you can go over to paulabernathy.com and submit your question right there. No complicated submittal process. You go right there. You can submit it right there in the form. It will email it to me. It will send it through our system and allows me to be able to answer that question and also take a select few and use them in our podcast. So remember, when you submit a question, it is always subject to be used on our podcast. But remember, we will not share names. We will not give anybody's information out. It's all kept private, confidential. But this allows me to be able to answer your questions. Okay, whether you have questions on grounding and bonding, whether you have questions on motors, whether you have questions on general electrical installation applications. Maybe I'm settling a dispute between you and your buddy at the water cooler. Hey, that makes for a great podcast discussion. I just want to let you know that I'm here, that Ask Paul is ready to answer those questions. So again, jump on over to www.paulabernathy.com and submit your questions. We'd love to have your questions on the next episode of Ask Paul. Take care, and hopefully you're excited about this new podcast series.